Okay, so tonight we are dealing with facing our fears, and thank you so much to those of you that are joining me live. It's always lovely to have you join me. Do let me know below that you can hear and see me, and for those of you watching a playback as well, thank you so much for stopping by, and again let me know that you're here or if you've got any comments or questions. I go live every Tuesday night, normally at 7:30 in the Happy to Be Me Hub, as part of the Power of You live coaching series. And this is your opportunity to either just come, observe, listen, get involved, ask questions, answer questions, etc., whatever it is that you feel comfortable with. And tonight's session voted for in the hub was Facing Your Fears. So the premise of this session, if you haven't joined us before, is that I'm going to share a few tips in terms of things that I've learnt about facing our fears, and I will share with you 4 questions for you to think about. That might be questions that you want to answer here right now or that you want to take away. And again, after the session, I will place all 4 questions as comments below as well, so that you've got them to look at later as well. So, facing our fears. Fears are very real to us, aren't they? They can really alter the way in which we behave, the way in which we speak, the decisions that we make, and certainly notice a change in behaviour normally when we are around people, or certainly in the lead up to situations that we fear. It can really change us. It can change our demeanour, it can change how we react or respond to situations. And I've lived through a very real experience of fear today. I have been to the dentist today, and for those of you that know me will know that this is something that fear-wise is massive for me, to the point where I can't drive myself to the dentist if I need to have something done like today, and it is very, very real for me. Another reason why I'm doing this live a bit earlier tonight, because I'm absolutely exhausted from today's experience. Now, I know that some of my fears around this experience aren't real, and I have to overcome those and I have to override them, but I still recognise that they are there. So I've done a lot of work in the last few days preparing myself for going today and speaking to the truth of what's going on, because otherwise I know that I can allow my fears to completely overtake the situation and to get the better of me. And even now, after all these years of mindset work and mindfulness, etc., that fear is still very real for me, but I am able to manage it certainly better than I would have done in the past. So I want to share that with you tonight. So when we think about fear, there are lots of different reasons why we can connect with fear. Now, they can be because we are facing something that we have faced before, and when we faced it before, it was a very difficult or traumatic experience. We can connect with fear because we have a lack of knowledge about something. So we're potentially coming up to a situation, or we're in the flow of a situation where we don't have all the answers, we don't feel in control, and that can very much allow fear to be triggered. And of course, as I've mentioned before, we are incredible storytellers, and we are incredible fortune tellers in the sense of we try to predict what's going to happen next. We spend more time thinking about what happens next or what happened previously than we do in the current moment. And so that's where fear tries to override us as well, where because we've experienced something before, or we think we're going to experience something, we take ourselves to that place. And as I said, it can feel very, very real. Our mouths can get very dry, our body language can change. For me today at the dentist, my right arm really shakes. I have to hold it to keep it still, and I know it's happening and I have to control that to stop that. But that's one of my trigger signs that I know if I'm facing a situation with fear, my right hand will start to shake. And so I asked that of you to get you thinking about is how do you know when fear shows up for you? What changes for you? Maybe what changes in your body language, in your posture, in your narrative, both that you speak inside your head and when you're with others. And also the choices that you make as well. So do your choices change when you're with fear? Do you feel that your choices are more limited? Do you feel that choice is taken away from you? Do you feel that that fear is controlling you as well? So it's really important that the more you can learn about what changes for you when we're with fear, the more that you will be able to intercept the fear quicker when it arrives. So my first question for you tonight is, where is fear controlling you right now? So in your lives, whereabouts is fear controlling you, and how do you know that the fear is actually present? What is shifting, what is changing for you to know that it has shown up, and to really notice that. Now, I know that sounds a bit crazy, but when you're next with fear, you need to really connect with that and work out what is changing for you, what is changing in your body, what is changing in your language, what is changing in your decisions. So like for me today, I know that when I got up this morning, I was very quiet, my heart was racing more, I was with anxiety a lot more, there were a lot more thoughts racing around my head, and I had, those gremlin voices were there, and I had to keep intercepting them and saying, what's the truth right now? What's the truth about what you're predicting is going to happen? And how can you intercept that? And that's what kept bringing me back out of it. Otherwise I could have sat with fear all morning. And so I had to just keep saying to myself, that is not the truth right now. That is not the truth right now. And it really did make a difference for me today to know that, to sort of manage that situation more for myself. So I ask you, where is fear controlling you right now, and what can you do to speak back to that? Now, fear can affect us, as I said, in very different ways, and certainly when we're with other people, the way in which we behave with other people can change when we're with fear. So fear can come from a number of different places. So for example, perhaps you're working with someone, or you're in a family situation with someone and you're feeling uncomfortable and fear shows up. The way in which we then react or respond with those people can be different. So if they maybe have said something to us that makes us feel fearful, then we are more likely to start being with judgment. So we're more likely to maybe start criticising others or be more judgmental of those people that we're with in those situations, as a way of trying to protect ourselves by deflecting the attention back to somebody else. And of course, when we're making choices more from a place of worth, then we are less likely to make those judgments or to criticise others and come from that place of attack. So again, when you're with fear, there really needs to be that flow of self-compassion coming in to remind yourself about what you're capable of, what you can be confident with, and to really love yourself so that you don't find yourself going into that situation. So what we want to aim to do is we want to move from fear, and we want to have more confidence, we want to have more certainty, and we want to have more clarity about the situations that are going on as well. So the next question for you tonight is around, what is the truth about your situation? So like with mine this morning, I had to deep dive in, and when I felt those gremlins showing up and that fear starting to show up for me this morning, I needed to actually ask myself, what is it I fear the most right now? And I knew for me that there was a particular aspect of the procedure that I was having done today that was the thing that I was concerned about. But at the time, it was fear, and it was controlling me, and it was controlling about how I was going to feel about the whole day and about the whole experience, and how my body was starting to react to that. And so I had to keep going to that place and saying, you don't know that's going to happen. This is what you're predicting is going to happen, and you need to, speak to the truth of what's going on. Is you don't know that for sure, so you just need to go with what's happening. So for me, there's something around certainty when it comes to fear. We need to be able to get clear. We need to be able to get ourselves into the present moment, and we need to notice what we are feeling right now. Because again, when we're in that fear situation, we're either mainly trying to recall or predict what's going on. We need to come back to the now. What is here right now? What can I control about this situation right now? And what do I need to let go of? And what do I actually need to face up to as well? So the second question, what is the truth about your situation, is really getting some clarity there, like I did this morning, and actually thinking about what is truly going on right now. Now, if we are able to do that, and I'm not saying I did that in a nanosecond this morning, that took a little bit of time to get there, but bringing myself back to the present moment really helps, because it means the time that I'm spending with those gremlins and in that fear-like state is reduced, and I'm able to bring it back and learn those triggers so I can bring that back quicker as well. So what I'm starting to do is to shift that focus, is to become more in control of my situation and how my body is behaving and the narrative that I'm with as well. So that's really important, because actually when we can understand those boundaries and those limits around what's going on, we develop more of that compassion to ourselves. So I didn't find myself getting cross with myself this morning that I kept going to that place. I just took a moment. I engaged my compassion. I reminded myself I needed to get back to the present moment, and I brought myself back. I didn't at any point feel frustrated that I'd gone there. I just knew I needed to bring myself back out. And that's what I offer to you. Don't start getting cross with yourself that you're with fear. You can't change that right now. Bring yourself back out, look after yourself, connect with that worth, connect with that compassion, and bring yourself back out of the situation. And I know this is really easy for me to say tonight, having been through that today, but this is all about practice. We're never going to get this right first time, but it's about knowing that we're compassionate enough to say, I tried it, it didn't work as well, or it worked better than I thought, and I'll give it a shot again next time. So again, this is about life lessons. This is about that cyclical process. It's a bit like worth, compassion, gratitude, anything in life. If we don't work at it, then it just disappears. We have to keep working at these things like we do with anything. So it's about keeping to move forward. So I guess what I'm saying is control the controllable and do the doable, which is my next tip for you tonight. We cannot control every moment of every day, although many of us try to do so. So think about when you're in that situation where you're with fear, or you're thinking about a situation where you're likely to be fearful about something soon. Think about what's in your circle of influence. What are you able to control, and what is it that you just need to let go of? Because you cannot predict every situation. You don't know the answers to everything. I talk about sometimes the fact that even on the sunniest of days, like today, 33 degrees, some of you will probably still have umbrellas in your bags just in case. And if we live our life with that just in case every moment, that's where we can encourage fear to show up. So sometimes we need to go out there, be brave, be bold, take those risks, control what we can and let go of what we can't, because otherwise you're just fueling energy into areas that you can't do anything about. And fear loves to thrive on that. So you need to let that go. So again, what you need to think about is noticing those emotions, those thoughts, those behaviours around that need to control. Where perhaps can you try other little areas of your life where you could just let go of that control just a tiny bit, just to try practicing that and see what that feels like. I know that was something massive for me. Being spontaneous is something I find challenging, but I have got to embrace it, and I have started embracing it, and it does feel different to be able to do that. So I encourage you to think about that too. So when we think about control the controllable and do the doable, one question I want to ask you is, what does that look like right now for you? So perhaps if you're watching this today thinking there's something maybe niggling about me for fear, what can you control about the situation? What can you do about the situation? And what do you need to let go of? So that may be something for you to think about. So that is the third question tonight. What can you actually do with your situation right now? What does that look like? And of course, finally, we have to speak to the fear and anxieties that we have. So often in life, we can be fearful about things, and we have to step outside the comfort zone. If you imagine a fried egg and you've got the yolk in the middle, that is our comfort zone. And so often in life, we love to stay in that little comfort zone, but actually from that place, we wouldn't get to experience half the things that we experience with other people in different situations, in work, in home, and in play as well. So where could you be braver right now? Where could you dip your toe out of that egg yolk into the unknown and try something new? Because fear can fuel us. Sometimes that little bit of fear that you have, you could turn into a positive energy to do something new as well. So I encourage you to think about that. So we have to speak to the fear sometimes, and we have to override it, because otherwise we wouldn't do anything. We would never try anything new. If you think about children, they don't think about fear when they're climbing up furniture and they're climbing up on climbing frames. You know, they don't worry about what's going to happen next. They live in that moment. And I think there's a lot we can learn from children in the sense of living in that present moment as well. So my last question for you tonight is, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try? If you take nothing else from this short video tonight, what's the one thing that you could try this week that you've held back on because you feel fear is controlling you? It's time for you to become in control of your worries, not the other way round. It is time for you to remember how brave you really are, how much you could really get from life, or how you could release that zest to do more or to be more by letting go of that fear and deciding who's in charge. So